Warsaw, 1939. The Nazis march into Poland. Bombs already scar the city, but tonight, another invasion begins. Soldiers storm the Warsaw Zoo, seizing its rarest animals for Hitler's dream of a new empire. Lions roar as they're dragged from cages. Elephants trumpet in terror. Giraffes collapse in fear. Families nearby crouch in cellars, clutching their children as chaos thunders through the night. But in the shadows of this stolen zoo, a different story takes root. Not of animals behind bars, but of people who would turn those cages into sanctuaries. It is a story of quiet defiance, of ordinary people who resisted tyranny with nothing but courage. Before the war, the Warsaw Zoo was a paradise. Jan Zabinski, its director, and his wife Antonina devoted their lives to it. Children tossed peanuts to elephants. Lovers strolled past aviaries. The air rang with birdsong. Antonina kept journals, describing her animals as if they were her children. A mischievous badger who raided the kitchen. A lynx who purred like a house cat. A baby elephant who trailed her everywhere. The zoo wasn't just a workplace, it was their world. But paradise shattered in September 1939. Nazi bombs turned Warsaw into rubble. Cages splintered. Animals bolted into the burning streets. Some were hunted down. Others starved where they stood. The zoo became a wasteland of broken cages and silence. But in that silence, Jan and Antonina saw something others did not, an opportunity to resist. When the Nazis occupied Warsaw, cruelty became routine. Jews were forced into a walled ghetto, crammed into starvation, disease, and despair. To help them was to invite execution. Jan and Antonina could have stepped back, tended their ruins, and survived quietly. Instead, they looked at their empty zoo and asked, what if it could still shelter life? They offered the occupiers a ruse. The zoo would be turned into a pig farm, raising food for the Reich. The Germans, convinced of their loyalty, agreed. But behind the facade of livestock pens and compost heaps, the Zabinskis began preparing something audacious, a resistance hidden in plain sight. At night, the zoo came alive again, not with roars, but whispers. Cages, once home to lions, now hid children. Aviaries became bedrooms. The insect house concealed entire families. Antonina turned her piano into a secret signal. A bright melody meant it was safe. A shift to minor chords meant danger. Germans were near. Jan smuggled people out of the ghetto in garbage trucks, under sacks of rotten vegetables, or hidden in crates. Antonina welcomed them with warmth, calling them guests. Some stayed only a night before being moved along underground escape routes. Others lived for months in the shadows of cages, listening to guards patrol outside. One survivor later recalled, "For a moment I forgot the war. We were treated like family. The zoo was the strangest, safest place I had ever known. The danger was constant. German officers often visited the zoo, inspecting the pigs, strolling the grounds. Any wrong note, any misplaced glance, and the game was over. Behind a single wall might be a family of 6. In a cellar, a child clutching a doll. Discovery meant execution for them all. And yet Jan didn't stop. He joined the Polish underground, hiding weapons in zoo trucks, delivering supplies to resistance fighters, even carrying pistols into the ghetto itself. Once, he narrowly escaped a German patrol while carrying explosives. At home, Antonina steadied her hands over the piano keys, masking the sound of frightened whispers with music. Every day was a razor's edge. Every hour, a choice between silence and defiance. What made the Zabinskis remarkable wasn't just the scale. More than 300 Jews passed through their zoo. It was how they did it. Antonina's journals don't speak in numbers, but in tenderness. She described guests like she once described her animals, with affection, with detail, with humanity. One young boy she compared to a fox, clever, quiet, with eyes that watched everything. A woman she called the turtle, slow in her movements, but steady in courage. In a world that treated these people as less than human, the Zubinskis gave them back their dignity. And dignity in wartime Warsaw was a form of resistance. By 1945, Warsaw was unrecognizable. The ghetto burned to the ground. The city reduced to ash. Over 80% destroyed. But from the zoo's ruins, survivors emerged. Some returned to nothing. Families gone, homes erased. Yet they were alive because Jan and Antonina had risked everything. Jan would later be shot and wounded during the 1944 Warsaw Uprising. Antonina continued alone, carrying on the work even as the city collapsed around her. When the Soviets finally pushed the Germans out, the zoo's gates opened to the light of freedom once more. After the war, the zoo was rebuilt. Animals returned. Children laughed again along its paths. But beneath its foundations lingered the memory of what had happened there. Jan and Antonina Zubinski were later honored as righteous among the nations, joining the small number of non-Jews recognized by Yad Vashem for saving lives during the Holocaust. And yet, they never called themselves heroes. Jan once said, "I only did what any human being should do." That is perhaps the most haunting truth. The Zubinskis were not soldiers, not assassins, not spies. They were simply a man, a woman, a son, who chose compassion when the world around them chose cruelty. Their story reminds us that resistance doesn't always come with guns and uniforms. Sometimes it comes with a piano melody. Sometimes with a door left open. Sometimes with the courage to turn a cage into a sanctuary. Because history never dies. It just echoes